Our girl is destitute.
What conspiracy theory do you have?
You're the Feyre.
I'm Feyre. He hates Tamlin. He's also a bit of a petty bitch.
And yet, she decides, let me just shoot my shot and see it. I'm like, girl.
Hello.
Sup, sexy people. I still don't know how to start these.
No, I know. I feel like the intro part's always like so awkward.
We both kind of did the deer in headlights thing.
We've all
We're just like, what do we
like,
say?
Right. We have to talk.
Right.
It's a podcast.
What's funny to me is like every time, and like listeners, I mean like literally every time we record, minimum, Corinne and I talk for at least an hour before.
Dude, and every time, like this morning, I was like, okay, I'm only letting us talk for like an hour because I really want us to like get in a more like sustainable recording amount of time, because it ends up being like 6 hours and then 2 of that is just us chatting in the beginning. So it's like, this could be more of like a 4.5 hour situation.
We'll do it too. We're like, I mean, last episode for our Serial Squad, our spoiler people, for those who didn't listen to the spoiler episode, we ended up having to record our spoiler episode a couple days after.
Yeah.
We recorded the in-person episode because we were having tech issues. And it was like literally I think we had a day in between when you left LA.
Yeah.
And when less than 48 hours.
Less than 48 hours.
And yet we still had so much somehow to catch up on. I don't know how we do it.
That one, Jeff and I both particularly thought was hilarious. We like actively talked about it later because we were both like giggling because I came out of the room. I'm like, we haven't started yet. And he was like, no, I know. And I was like, I don't understand. He was like, I don't understand why you don't understand. Like, he's like, you do know who you two are, right? I'm just like,
I love how both our partners, because I did the same thing too, right? Like, we both took a little break, bathroom break before we started recording today. David comes out of his office. I'm like, yeah, we haven't started yet. He was like, yeah. But I love how both our partners have accepted this before we have.
And it's not even like a bad thing. It's just like,
no,
it's just something that you and I, for some reason, are like, no.
We're cursed to forever do. I think all this is pointing to, though, that inevitably in the future, we need to buy either like a duplex or have a neighboring situation so that when we're little old ladies, all like in retirement, we could just sit in our porches every day, just gabbing all day, drinking like lemonade or something, like being the town gossips.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then just like David and Jeff will take turns of being like, no, I did it last time. You go get them this time. It's your turn. Exactly. You tell them it's time to eat. I did it yesterday. I'm not doing it again.
And we will still be reading our face mud at that age.
100%. I love those. I love those videos of like, if it's just like a little video of like a little old lady like walking down the street with her walker, and it's like me going to get Akatar 12. I was like, absolutely, 100%. That will be me. 1,000%. That will be me.
That actually kind of segues perfectly into one of my Cauldron save memes. Because speaking of memes, I have seen a lot in the past week. Basically, memes talking about like, for all the Akatar girlies who are also Swifties, we have really won this year.
Yeah, what a
because
time.
we got Akatar 6 news, and we're getting a new Taylor album, which is one of my Cauldron save me's. Like, I'm not going to get into it because I physically won't be able to stop.
We don't have the time.
I'm just forewarning y'all. The week of October 3rd, when The Life of a Showgirl comes out, I will be insufferable.
Yeah.
I will have many crises in good ways. I will be theorizing up the wall. I mean, Corinne's already heard.
I was about to say, y'all, she's already been like lightweight insufferable. This like you know, like a taste.
Yeah.
Insufferable.
Yeah.
Because again, it's hard for me to fully find it annoying because, like, Ariel just gets so much joy from this that I just, like, you know, it's like when you see someone you love so much, like, go off about something, it's really hard to not just be like, "Yeah, go girl, get it." But I kid you not, guys, Ariel sent me this voice memo that I literally texted her back saying, "I fear you've gone down a path I can't follow." That was basically my way of being like, "You're you're we've gone to a level of theorizing that I love you and I will listen and I will
Yeah.
support, but I can't dance with you on this one."
But yeah, no, the path that Corinne's like, this is too far for me, which actually leads into my next Cauldron Save Me is we got into some Greek mythology theories. So won't I'm not gonna get into it now, but I was talking to her about it because it might pertain to the current book we're both reading, although you may have
I
finished at
did.
this
I
point. I'm not
finished it
sure.
last night.
I knew you were going to. So the New Crowns of Nyaxia book, which I'm already forgetting the title. I never remember
The
the titles of
Fallen
them.
and the Kiss of Dusk.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really good,
I'm
y'all.
scared. I'm really scared how this book is going to end. Yeah, it's been really, really like the second that you left, I started it because like I do audiobooks, Corinne does Kindle books, and I
Which
was like,
means we
I don't
started it at
want
the
to.
same time because I started mine in the
Same time.
airport when I was in LA
Yeah,
waiting to leave.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I'll usually listen like at night when I'm like taking a shower and like getting ready and stuff, and I didn't want to like ruin anything for her in case she
Yeah.
heard, like it from my bathroom. So I was like, I'll wait till she's left. I think I'm pretty close. I think I only have a few hours left.
Yay. Huzzah.
Huzzah!
My Cauldron saved me a lot. It basically is just about where we are in our book because we are friends. We are in the infamous last 200 pages. I did the math the other day. We have like 150 some odd pages left or something. I know.
Well, knowing, I mean, y'all know, we know what happens in this book,
Yeah.
and knowing what happens, I'm like, wow, yeah, like I didn't realize all of this happens in the last 200. I kind of thought like only a chunk of it
Yeah.
happened
No, I know.
in the last 200.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, well, so and I think we have mentioned it in other episodes before, but like there is a joke about the last 200 to 100 pages in many fantasy novels, but especially Sarah J. Maas novels. Like the last 100 or 200 pages are just fucking buck wild. There's so much
Yeah.
happens and it's a lot. And so that's my Cauldron save me of just like here we go. Like, buckle up.
Really real. You're gonna have some watery bowels during it for
Probably.
sure.
Probably.
Like, and what's funny about Thorns and Roses is I would say, other than Frost and Starlight, which is just kind of a lovely little novella. I think we've talked
Yeah.
about that one. You really don't have to worry about. Although do read it because I've been seeing just quick
Yeah.
thing. I've been seeing a
I
lot
know.
more people on the internet talk about like you don't need to read Frost and Starlight. You absolutely do. It sets up for Silver Flames. Don't listen to those people.
Also, it's just like a gift. I don't know. I view it as like
It
a
really
little
is.
extra like cherry on top gift. But anyway.
Absolutely. But other than Frost and Starlight, I would say the last 200 pages of Thorns and Roses is like the tamest of the Akatar
Yeah.
series.
Yeah.
The rest are like, if you think these last 200 pages are crazy, like hold on to your butts
I know.
for the next
And it's
books.
actually really funny to like say that because
Yeah.
these two chapters that we read for this week, chapters 30 and 31, it's a slow kind of ramp up, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
at the end of 30, like we can talk about it, right? Like at the end of 31,
Finally.
we know like Feyre's she's gonna like, well, she does go back, right?
Yeah.
She goes back. And so you're sort of and Tamlin's not there. So it's like you can feel the ramp up of something happening, right? Because it's
Yes.
funny. The last two chapters before this, we're home, we're back in the mortal world. We don't really
Like,
know
what are we doing?
how long are we here, whatever.
Yep.
But I think these two chapters with different things that are revealed and different experiences that are had between the two chapters, you feel the ramp up of the climax of the end of the book. Like you can feel like, oh Lord have mercy, what are we about to get into? And it's so funny though, because like the chapter 30, so, friendly reminder, right? I like how I've like dubbed myself like the recap queen.
I love it though. You're good at
Which
it.
is kind of ironic because, small side note, my family calls me Rin Recap because,
I didn't know that.
yeah, because when I tell stories, I normally give like a play by, you know this, I give a play by play of who said what, where someone was standing,
Perfect.
where blah, blah, blah. And they'll just be like, oh, the Rin Recap. Like, here we go. Like, I create a whole story. So it's just kind of funny that this like naturally happened.
You were born for this.
Born for it. But yeah, so 28, 29, right? We're back. We're back in the mortal realm. Holy crap, family's rich. Holy shit, Tamlin did a lot to set up the fam.
Yeah. Was an extra motherfucker.
Extra motherfucker. Nesta is being real weird. Elaine is just living her best gardening life.
They're gonna throw a ball for Feyre.
Yeah, they're gonna throw a ball for Feyre. But yeah, there's, and there's just really beautiful kind of like new viewpoint on Elaine that I feel like Feyre kind of ends those two chapters with, and this sort of like appreciation of how Elaine has always kind of stayed this sort of this light kind of through all of their experiences, and just overall Feyre kind of trying to figure out like what is she gonna do in this like new world. So last we left Feyre, she was at the cottage, looking back at their poor little life. And what I love at the beginning of this chapter is fucking Feyre. So like, right, like we know that Tamlin has made not only her family rich, but made her independently wealthy, which is very cool. She puts a certain amount of it to invest into her dad. And then she takes a good fucking chunk with her. And we don't really know why until the beginning of this chapter. Baby girl is just going to really impoverished houses and just giving them money.
I love that. Like my first note in all caps was, our girl is giving back to those in need.
I know.
Like, I mean, classic Feyre, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we're going to see a lot of the ways that Feyre gives back to the people in her community throughout the entire series. Like, Feyre, I think this is also why, like, I get so defensive of her when people kind of just, like, shit on her. I'm like, she has such a good heart.
Yeah, she
like,
really does.
I would say, actually, especially if we're thinking about, like, all three Sarah J. Maas series, like, I would argue out of the three heroines, she has the biggest heart.
Yeah.
And is the most giving.
Yeah.
I mean, we love the other two as well.
Right.
But, like, Feyre, I think, wears her heart the most on her sleeve. And, like, really, really thinks about others more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I fucking love this.
Yeah, me too.
That she's giving back. The other important thing that happens in this chapter, the scene in this chapter, is she runs into Isaac.
Oh. Yeah.
Just such a growth moment because so on page 262, she first hears a woman's laugh and like she describes it as it like flitted over the stones, right? And she runs into Isaac and his new wife.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of you out there have run into an ex before. I certainly have. And at least the one that I'm thinking of, it's never been very pleasant. And I love that in this case it is, because she says at the very end of this little chunk, she says, a few more steps had us passing each other, her and Isaac and his wife. She says, I smiled broadly at them both and bowed my head, wishing them well with my entire heart. And it's just such a beautiful growth moment of just like, I think we talked about her and Isaac weren't ever in love with one another. They were more of they were a situation.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like they were both living in poverty, kind of using each other in like not a bad way, right?
No, because it was a consenting, it was a mutual using. Like at least that's how I took it.
It was a friends with benefits.
Yeah, because she even kind of mentioned how like she did, because he did bring up that he was going to get engaged or something in the beginning of the book. And she mentions how she has this like moment of jealousy, but then she's also like, but I don't really have a claim on him. And do I actually like want a claim on him? And so I just feel like, it's this like consenting friends with benefits situation. Yeah.
And I just love that, like, she's just like, I'm happy for you. Yeah. And it's because she has found love, right? Like, I think it's even a more significant moment of growth when you think about it from the perspective of she's fallen in love, but she isn't with Tamlin
Yeah.
right now. Like, she's had to leave him. So the fact that she has enough space in her heart to still wish Isaac well, like that's really big, I
Yeah.
think. And it just really shows the type of person she is.
Yeah, no, I love this moment so much, because it's I think it's really beautiful, like, the language that Sarah uses, you immediately know that Feyre feels positive about this whole thing, because
Yeah.
she says she was just like, face to face with Isaac Hale. They were arm in arm, both smiling, both lit up from within.
Yeah.
And I just that already, you're like, okay, Feyre loves this. Like you don't like we do eventually know like that she's very supportive of this and all this stuff, but I think it's really, really beautiful because it shows this moment of like, I appreciate this man and I remember who he was to me, but we're
Yeah.
not there anymore. And so I can just
Yes.
sort of enjoy, and like I actually have been very fortunate enough to kind of have this situation of someone who we were deeply in love with each other, and then we kind of, we moved on from each other, and we're both in like serious relationships, and seeing each other again, it's just they almost look different to you. They almost even look like a
Yeah.
different person because you just know like that person you were in love with, like while they're still there, it was such a different time and it was such a different place, and you have both grown and you have both whatever, and it's this really beautiful moment of like truly being happy for this other person who you used to care really deeply about, knowing that they're happy. And it's a
Yeah.
really elating feeling. And I think she did such a good job of the description of like they lit up from within, and how she even said like he'd been a boy when I left, and yet this person who now approached me, whatever had blossomed with his wife, whatever was between them, it had made him into a man. And there's also a very crazy experience when you do have a relationship with someone when you're both pretty immature and you're both kind of these like two kids just kind of trying to figure it all out. And then
Yeah.
when you see each other again and you're like, "Oh, yes, I am now a woman. You are now a man. Wow, like look at us. We've really experienced some stuff, And
Yeah.
I just think it's really cool. And there's there's kind of this weird thing that happens in these two chapters for me where I feel like Feyre gets these little bits of closure from
Yeah.
like her mortal world, whatever. And whether that means anything or not, it's just like we get these little pieces because she has this closure with Isaac. And then kind of like in the next chapter, she kind of gets this interesting closure with Nesta as well. And so
Yes.
I think through these 4 chapters of her being in the mortal realm, there's these little bits of closure that Feyre gets. And it's fascinating because, when you have your first time reader cap on, you're kind of like, what could this mean? Like,
Yeah.
you hope
Yeah.
it's positive, right? You hope like, okay,
Yes.
maybe this means she's gonna like get to be with Tamlin forever, or maybe this like who knows? But we're getting little bits of closure, and I find that very fascinating. I also find this one little thing
Mm.
where she says, "Human. He seemed so human with his
Yeah.
gangly limbs, his simple handsomeness." This is now like the second time she's kind of brought up people looking like human, like when she sees the servants for the first time. She actually
Yeah.
even kind of like compares some of Nesta's like stillness to like a fae, which is like very
She
interesting. But she's
does.
doing a lot of these comparisons. But what I find fascinating is like this is now the second time where she has said human, and it seems like an insult.
Yeah.
And it's just,
I think,
yeah,
yeah, I get what you mean. I feel insult may be a little stronger word. It's more of a, to me at least, I think it's more of a like, maybe like a non-intentional insult. You know what I mean? Of like a just it's that thing, like if we're comparing it to real life, of like, yeah, when you grow up and then you see like someone from childhood, or you move away from your home and then you come back to your home and you're like, oh, this seems so small by comparison.
Okay. Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's that thing. I don't think she's like she's not trying to be insulting
Right.
towards him, but more of a just like, oh, you seem so ordinary
Yeah. Okay.
compared to what I've
Yeah.
experienced since last seeing you. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah.
And look, I'm sure if she said it out loud to him, he would probably take it as
Yeah.
an insult. But I don't think there's certainly no malice
No.
behind
Oh,
it.
no. And I that's not really how I took it either. It's just it's kind of
Yeah.
this fascinating thing of like it's just this other little reminder of just who she has been around. And I think it's also one of the first times where she's really getting to have this experience of viewing humans the way that maybe the Fae do. And
Yeah.
just like when you are surrounded by this particular level of just like grace and whatever, and then you're kind of taken out of it, how
Yeah.
it's just like she's getting a very interesting perspective that I feel like not a lot of humans get. And
Yes.
I just find it very fascinating how when she first entered the Fae realm, how she was making all of these like, she was constantly feeling like prey. These were predators. These were these like powerful, graceful creatures. And then how like this switch into, well, no, that's just Tamlin and Lucian. Like that's just,
Yeah.
and so now she's kind of experiencing this new switch of like these humans, these things. Oh, but that's just Isaac. Like, yeah, I think it's really interesting how her point of view, perspective shift. She's had a perspective
Yes.
shift.
Well, the other perspective shift she has, which I think is really interesting in this chapter, she says on page 262, she's talking about the ball that her dad and sister are throwing for her. She says, such money being thrown away on things we'd never dreamed of having, even for a moment. I would have begged him not to host it, her dad, but Elaine had taken charge of planning and finding me a last minute dress, and it would only be for one evening. An evening of enduring the people who had shunned us and let us starve for years. And I find this really interesting because it's a perspective shift on money. But what's so interesting, and I feel like the way she's had this perspective shift is so different from what I think I've seen in anything I can think of, frankly, before, is she went from being the most impoverished one can be, basically, to then living in such extreme wealth beyond the imaginable with Tamlin, and then being surrounded by magic.
Yeah.
And then she goes back to where she lived and is experiencing wealth again, but in a very different way. Because, like, as wealthy as her and her family are, they're still not as wealthy as Tamlin.
Right.
We have to remember that. Like, Tamlin has endless wealth. Like, think about it this way. He gave the Archerons and Feyre all the wealth that they have, and he still has more wealth, right? Which is wild to even conceive. Yet she has this perspective shift. And I think it's because when she sees the wealth that Tamlin has, it's in a totally new world to her, right? But when she sees the wealth that her family has, it's back home.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's the key difference is like also the fact that Tamlin's a High Lord, right? So it kind of makes more sense that he would be this wealthy, whereas her family, they're not of nobility, really. Like, yeah, her dad was the Prince of Merchants, but like that's a
nickname.
That's
really.
like a and he made himself, right? Like he acquired that title himself. It wasn't given to him through birthright like Tamlin did, right? So I think it's really interesting that she is critiquing this wealth that her family has, but she's never critiqued really. Well, I guess she kind of has when she first got to the Spring Court, but it's been a while since she's critiqued the wealth that Tamlin has, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's because it's exactly what you've already said, which is like it's with her family who these were the people she experienced the squalor with. These are the people that she experienced all this with. And so there's got to be this extra level of
bitterness.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah.
Of like this almost extra level of bitterness of just like she when she first got to the Spring Court, she was very like, she commented on the silverware being gold and how just like, oh my God, like, and then the
I think she
feast,
said the
the
curtains.
food, and the just everything. She was like, I could rip this off the wall and sell this. Like, this would have fed my family for a month, like she definitely did all that kind of stuff. But it's different because it's not her family. It's this fairy who, like there's so many things already separating them as like beings that it's probably so much easier to like stomach. But this has got to feel really bizarre. I just think it's so fun. I started smiling when you read this quote because this is the next quote I had written down as well. And
naturally,
because it's just got to be so bizarre for them, like spending money on these things to entertain people that have not been good people to the Archerons. And so it's just like
to the curb.
The money and these people are so fleeting. And it's just it's gotta feel so bizarre to just be like, yeah, let's throw money at something that will literally only be used tonight. Like, we will never use it again. And so, I feel like there's got to be like a level of bitterness. But I also think it's so funny how quickly Feyre is like falling into kind of her old role where she's just like, you know what, but whatever, I'll do it for Elaine. I'll do it. I'll do it for Dad. Like, I'll stomach it and it'll be, whatever. Yeah, it's just got to feel so weird to just be in this situation. Like,
well, especially when you were saying all that, I was thinking like, it especially has to be weird because when they were in poverty, we got to remember Elaine and Nesta would sometimes spend the few coppers that they had on just like a new cloak or a new, and like, mind you, sometimes they did need it, but like a lot of the times they didn't really need that stuff. And so to see this frivolity, right?
Great word.
Thank you. Not gonna lie, I was like, that is a word, right?
It is, yeah.
But it's got to be triggering.
Yeah.
For sure. And also, Feyre is really not the type to keep up with the Joneses.
No.
Right? And that's what this is like, she talks about a number of times throughout these 2 chapters, and I think in the last 2 chapters as well, like, the people they're trying to entertain or trying to, like, keep up with the Joneses with, they're people who straight up just acted once the Archerons got their wealth back, like, oh, like, you guys were just, like, on an 8-year vacation or something. Like, it's not, you guys weren't poor. Like, they don't talk about it. And so there's certainly bitterness. From Feyre, and rightfully, I mean, I would be pissed. And I mean, this kind of like segues into my director moment of like the other person who's really not having this and really not caring about keeping up with the Joneses is Nesta. Right? And we finally find out why. So my director moment, it's a pretty big moment. I'm not going to go through like the entire quote because it would be like a few pages, but it's the moment when Nesta finally reveals that the glamour didn't work on her, which I just gotta say now, like, now that we're here, this has been one of the hardest things to not talk about for me in the spoiler free section. Because like, you and me, we're Nesta girlies. Like, we love Nesta. And this scene for me was one of the big reminders why, because like the reason I won't spoil in this episode, Serial Squad, why we love Nesta, but like, it takes a long time, honestly, to grow to love Nesta. But I do sometimes forget that there are moments in Thorns and Roses where you're like, she's always been the way she's been and why we love her. And this scene is one of the biggest. So it starts off, I believe, on page 264. And it's when Feyre says that this is her home. She's talking to Nesta saying like, I came back here because this is my home. And Nesta says, no, it's not. I think your home is somewhere very far away. And Feyre kind of tries to play it off. And, she's like talking about Aunt Ripley. And Nesta just goes, there is no Aunt Ripley. And I remember the first time reading this, my jaw like dropped. I was like, wait, what? And then she says, your beast's little trick didn't work on me. Apparently an iron will is all it takes to keep a glamour from digging in. So I had to watch as Father and Elaine went from sobbing hysterics into nothing. I had to listen to them talk about how lucky it was for you to be taken to some made-up aunt's house, how some winter wind had shattered our door. And I thought I'd gone mad. But every time I did, I would look at that painted part of the table with the claw marks farther down and know it wasn't in my head. And this part, she also shows Feyre a little chip of that table that she painted, right? The reason I love, and this is actually, I'm coming at less from certainly a directing standpoint, but more from a writing standpoint, the scene, because I love character driven films and TV shows. Like that is really my bread and butter. Like I love a good plot driven film. I actually just saw one last night, but really to me, like film and TV is about the characters, right? It's like I talk about a lot, like my favorite like nostalgic show of all time is Lost. And like if you've seen Lost, you know, famously, like a lot of people hate the ending to Lost. And I actually just rewatched it for the first time since it aired. And I get why people do now. But the reason I love it so much is because it really is about the characters, right? Like you can kind of forgive a lot of the plot holes and the unanswered questions because the characters, you know, it's really about them.
Yeah.
And that's why I love this scene, is like this is such a character driven scene between these two sisters who have been at odds with one another for years. And this is kind of their first real honest moment with one another, at least in the books, right? And it shows just like how, like, for those who are reading the series for the first time, just like do yourself a favor, just stick with Nesta. Like I'm telling you, stick, like you can have your feelings about her certainly because you're supposed to, but like really don't give up on her, because this scene really shows what Nesta is made of, because we not only find out that her iron will, as she puts it, is the thing that makes it so the glamour didn't work on her. Although we talked about in the spoiler section of last week, we have some theories that it might be a little more than that. But I think a lot of it does come down to will. But also, she went to look for Feyre.
Yeah.
So the last chapter, I think it was the last chapter, last couple chapters, Elaine mentions, Nesta went to go visit you, but her carriage broke down, right? Which it's so funny. I just finished looking through that episode, and we were talking about like, well, it had to have happened after they got rich, because how could she have afforded a carriage?
Yeah.
But we actually find out, no, it was during the week that they were still in poverty, between like when Feyre was taken away and when they got their riches again. That is the week that Nesta went to go find Feyre. And it's because she didn't actually take a carriage. She just went on horseback. And actually, she hired the mercenary with the few coppers they had left. So our mercenary kind of comes back, which is great.
Yeah.
But she fucking went to the wall.
Yeah.
Which, like, you know, high maintenance Nesta Archeron going 2 days on horseback through the winter snow, through that scary ass forest to find her baby sister. Like that is deep down who Nesta really is. And no matter how she acts in the future, just know that is who Nesta Archeron really is. And that's the stuff she's made of. And it's frankly why she's my favorite character in the series. This might be my own bias, is, you know, I am the eldest daughter.
Yeah.
She is the eldest daughter. And I know that there's a certain level of responsibility the eldest daughter has. And I kind of, there is this part of me that does love a little bit of her bitchiness, because I think, like, regardless of whether you do or you don't like Nesta, because trust me, there's plenty of both in the fandom, we can all agree she can be a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, anyone who's in denial of that, I think you kind of need to reread the books.
Oh, yeah.
But I think as an eldest daughter, there are times when she is like a straight up bitch that I'm kind of like, you know what? Good for you. Good for you. So, and that's part of why I say stick with her, right? Of like, there's no doubt, like, she's made mistakes before. She will continue to make mistakes. But at the end of the day, she is a very she's made of some strong shit, I'll say.
Yeah.
And I love her for it.
Yeah,
And this proves it.
But so you brought this up as your director moment.
Yes.
So you more brought it up just because you would really enjoy like directing this scene?
I think so. And I was thinking about how I would do it. It's more, honestly, I really couldn't say. I would really have to sit down and think about it. It's more, I would be really excited to write this scene.
Yeah. I also feel like you'd be really excited to watch the actors play this scene out is what that's what I feel like what you're almost getting to as well, right?
Completely.
Yeah.
Especially like thinking about how I would direct and also seeing the choices whoever played Nesta would make would make in the scenes prior to this when she hasn't told I almost said Elaine when she hasn't told Feyre.
Yeah. I feel like this would be one of those really magical moments on set where sometimes when a scene is being played out, there's this really beautiful thing that you get to experience, which is like when actors are fully embodying their role and are doing it in a way that you didn't expect or that you didn't plan for. It's really cool. You normally can feel the magic in the room too. So yeah, I feel like you, and knowing how you direct, I feel like you would love that.
Well, there's, something I've learned as a director is like and I've done this for sure before. Like I think a lot of directors, especially like ones who aren't yet, in Hollywood or, pro directors, like have a tendency to kind of, for lack of a better term, micromanage and like really have their hand, like a heavy hand in every single scene, every single shot. And something I've learned is there are certain scenes or shots or whatever where you really kind of have to surrender and allow the actors to take a bit more of the lead.
Yeah.
And obviously still, if there's a note you have, you can give those notes and things like that. But I feel like this would be one of those scenes where I really would kind of like let the actors take the reins a little bit and only kind of have like interspersed notes.
Right.
I'm also a director where like I love to encourage my actors to get to know each other before we start shooting.
Right.
And so especially when it's like actors who are playing family members or things like that. And so I'd be really curious to see how I picture this as a very quiet scene also. Like I think a lot of the scenes I've picked prior to this are kind of the bigger scenes where it's like a lot's happening or, they're not super subtle. And this is just a pure dialogue scene.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it'd be a really interesting challenge to make this interesting beyond what's being spoken and like really play with the quietness and like kind of Nesta's not subtle, but just I guess quiet rage.
Yeah.
Right. Because she has this rage in her. She is pissed off at her father. I don't think she's pissed off at maybe she's a little pissed at Elaine, but I think she's more frustrated with Elaine. But I think she's pissed at her dad. And I think it's also beautiful seeing this rage within her because, we've seen before she hasn't been very maternal towards Feyre ever.
Yeah.
Right? And like Feyre's kind of talked about that in terms of like she doesn't really feel the love that Elaine feels from Nesta.
Yeah.
Right? And this is Nesta's way of showing that love to Feyre of like, I basically fought for you. I went to find you in a way that like, again, high maintenance Nesta really would never have done otherwise. And so I think it feels like such a big sister moment of like, we get a bad rep for like picking on our little sisters, and like, I've been totally guilty of that. But then you have these moments of showing, like really stepping up and showing your younger sibling, sister or otherwise, like, no, I love you. And I will show you in this way by like fighting for you.
Yeah.
So it just, again, as an older sister, it tugs on my heartstrings.
Yeah. Well, it feels a lot like and we kind of talked about in the beginning of the book, the sort of classic thing that happens, I think, with family where you will shit on your own family members till the cows come home.
Yep.
But the minute someone else steps in, like the children of the light, remember in the beginning?
Yeah.
The minute they start stepping to your people, you're like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, you have no room to say anything to this person. And Nesta already gave us a little bit of that in the beginning of the book. And I think what feels so extra eldest sister, right? You know, friendly reminder, guys, I have 2 older sisters. So like it's always really fun for Ariel and I to kind of do this back and forth of like her older sister perspective and me as the baby sister. This repetition that Nesta keeps saying of it wasn't right. When Feyre just keeps being like, but but like you said you tried to come get me. And how Nesta, she's literally like on 264, she's like, he stole you away into the night, claiming some nonsense about the treaty. And then everything went on as if it never happened. It wasn't right. None of it was right. And then again on 265, Feyre's like, but you did that for me? And Nesta just goes, it wasn't right. Like, I love the simplicity of her answer, that she's just like, and I can literally imagine it in of like of Nesta just kind of getting to this incredulous place of like, I don't know why we're still talking about this. Like, it just wasn't right. Like, it's that simple.
It's almost like the underlying thing she's almost not saying is like, are you stupid? Like,
no,
it wasn't right.
100%.
It's such a big sister thing.
No, exactly. And that's what feels so big sisterly to me in this whole conversation between these two, of kind of Nesta almost being like, I don't understand why you're surprised. Like, because even her response of like, he took you in the middle of like, of course I'm going to go see if you're like, what the fuck? Like, almost this level of, because they even talk about how she's doing a lot of like shrugging and kind of just like looking at Feyre with just this very like matter of fact kind of like, duh, and this sort of ferocity that I think Feyre is seeing. And like, I love this quote on 265. It's a long one, but stick with me. Where she's like, I looked at my sister, really looked at her, at this woman who couldn't stomach the sycophants who now surrounded her, who had never spent a day in the forest, but had gone into wolf territory, who had shrouded the loss of our mother, then our downfall, in icy rage and bitterness, because the anger had been a lifeline, the cruelty a release. But she had cared. Beneath it, she had cared and perhaps loved more fiercely than I could comprehend, more deeply and loyal. Like, I actually get teared up saying this like out loud, because it's this really beautiful, like getting emotional. It's this really beautiful thing of also just showing how differently people love.
Yes.
And we love and we show love very, very differently. And I am not an older sister, but I also have felt quite a connection with Nesta from the beginning, because she's very ferocious in how she loves. And as you guys have already observed, if you've been with us this whole route, I am very fierce in my love for Ariel. I'm very aggressive about it. And while I don't believe Nesta is as openly as open about it, affectionate about it, but this sort of rage that kind of comes out of her, I just think it's so beautiful. And it also is this really beautiful comparison. She's learning so much about her sisters. The last chapter was all about Elaine used hope to survive.
Yeah.
This chapter is about Nesta used anger. Yes. And that it is a huge description of who their characters are throughout the entirety of the series. Whether they land on wherever they are in the scale of this, but Elaine with this idea of hope and Nesta with this idea of anger. These two characters struggle with these ideas on and off. And I think it explains so much of how these two behaved in the beginning of the book. And it's just, I love this moment so much, because also we get this, what I think is the explanation of why Nesta was Nesta in the beginning of this book. If you're cool with me jumping to the end of this chapter.
Yeah.
But just, I feel like we actually get this explanation of why Nesta behaved the way she behaved. It's at the very end of the chapter. Nesta and Feyre see Elaine and you know, their dad kind of walking together, and she literally says this stuff of like, you know, there are days when I want to ask him if he remembers the years he almost let us starve to death.
I have this down too.
Yeah.
I was going to bring it up.
And Feyre's like, you know, you spent some money too, which is why I kind of love this little duo of like, this sasscatness.
I love it.
It's so good. And I feel like we get this paragraph that really describes why Nesta behaved that she did, and it's on 266. And Nesta, in response to Feyre's like, you spent some money too, Nesta said, I knew you could always get more. And if you couldn't, then I wanted to see if he would ever try to do it himself instead of carving those bits of wood. If he would actually go out and fight for us. I couldn't take care of us, not the way you did. I hated you for that. But I hated him more, and I still do. That, to me, is just like, there's your explanation. That's why Nesta was the way she was in the beginning. This whole even kind of like flippant thing of like, I knew you'd get us more. Like, I knew that you were gonna, and yeah, I was pissed at you for that, but I was more mad because Dad should have been doing this.
First off, pretty much during your entire thing, I've been like, for those not watching the video, I've been like nodding vigorously, like, yes, fucking preach. But this in particular, I think you're right. It totally explains who Nesta is as a person. Like, Nesta does have a very deep sense of right and wrong and like justice, I would say. And even though one could argue testing out your father's commitment to the family during a survival situation may not be the best time.
Yeah.
But I get why she does it.
Yeah,
and she's right. That's the thing, is she is right. Yeah. Feyre could always get them more money. She proved that time and time again. But Nesta was just, and this is the heartbreak I have for her, just sitting there watching her father, who we've talked about, he doesn't have to go out and become like a farmer or a hunter or anything. Like, he had a hobby that he could have made money from.
He had a skill that he could have used and put into the world. Like, whether it was like working at someone's shop or something. Like, he could,
But he didn't. And she's just sitting there going, why are you not fighting for your daughters?
Yeah.
And I completely agree with her.
Yeah.
It's so heartbreaking. And then what's even more heartbreaking, and before I go into that, actually, I love, it's such a big sister way of being like this is how she shows her love, right? Like, well, like, I knew you could, and I hated you for it, but I knew you could. Like, that is Nesta's love language. But then she says, he's always known I hate him. Talking about her dad, even before we became poor, he let mother die. He had a fleet of ships at his disposal to sail across the world for a cure, where he could have hired men to go into Prythian and beg them to help, but he let her waste away. He let her die. You would have gone to the ends of the earth to save your high lord. And she's fucking right.
Yeah.
And I think that's where their mother's death and their father allowing their mom to die is where that's kind of Nesta's villain origin story. And like, not that she's literally a villain, but, you know, like in the colloquial term.
Yeah.
Of like, that's where she becomes this bitter young woman. And I understand why. Totally. Because her mom died.
Yeah.
Like, can you really fault her? And I think that's why I get so defensive of her. I'm just like, she can be a bitch, but can you blame her?
Yeah. Like, it's so funny because even like right before she has that conversation with Feyre of like, no, this isn't your home. That conversation starts with Nesta being like, you can try to cover your hands up all you want, but they'll always know they'll always know you don't belong or something. Like, it's such a bitch comment. Like, you're just like, all right, fuck off. Like, I even wrote in my notes during that, even though I knew what was coming because I have read this before, I was just, I think I was just even like, girl, such a bitch, like, back off. Like, that's literally what I wrote. Like, and then 2 seconds later, she's being like, no. I know that you've been off. I know the truth. And I did look for you. So it's like, she's this like she's fighting her personal anger demons like constantly, this girl, because it's in the same breath. She says stuff that is really fucking harsh, but it also, especially this thing about the mom, like this is so heartbreaking, but I like the honesty that Nesta is giving Feyre in this moment too, I think is really, really cool because it shows a level of growth from Nesta compared to how she was in the beginning. And I think a lot of that growth came from her being the crazy person in the corner, looking at her glamoured dad and sister, and she has to use a fucking piece of wood as a totem just to like stay sane. I think during a lot of that time, she probably was just like, fuck. Like the fact that she didn't actually go insane during this is like quite impressive, to be perfectly honest with you.
I think we talked about this in the spoiler episode, so I'm not going to go into detail too much about it, but we talked about disillusionment. Right? And like how the breaking of illusions, not just for Feyre, but for Nesta too, is really important to keep their character growth. Nesta, to me, I've seen like some TikToks like kind of like parody this. She's that fucking girl who like looks scary, has like probably like resting bitch face, right? But then like when you actually need like if you're at a bar, right, and like some creepy dude's hitting on you, you kind of look to her and she's like, hey, hey, you, fuck you. Like she's the one who bullies the guy and actually protects you. Like that is Nesta to a T.
It's that one where it's like when a mean girl turns into a girl's girl. It's like something like that. Yeah, where it's like she like is kind of a little spicy to the girl she sits next to, but then she like she actively defends her.
She kind of adopts her like as her little like friend.
I absolutely think that is Nesta for sure. She just has a ferocity about her that I think is very intimidating for a lot of people. And I think people misjudge the ferocity. And I also just think like she doesn't suffer fools. It's just not her thing. And I think that's why this like kind of while all this has just been so painful for Nesta, and I'm sure the relief of finally getting to talk to Feyre about it. And I actually think, because Nesta needs an outlet, and I actually think that's why she ends up asking Feyre to teach her how to paint. We're gonna go backwards a little bit in the chapter, but like, first of all, I love that Feyre tells her everything. And that the only response is Nesta is like, can you teach me how to paint? Like that just feels so Nesta, just like, I believe it all. And I'm, and I love how like this whole painting experience really doesn't sound pleasant, to be perfectly honest. But it's this really adorable, like, sister bonding. And if we remember, this is the first time Feyre's painted since she's been back. So there's something really
significant.
Yeah. There's something really beautiful about Feyre Nesta getting her back to painting. Like I just, there's a really, again, I feel like this trip home is really Feyre like learning a lot about her sisters while she's in this very frustrating space of not knowing how long she should be occupying herself. Honestly, I started making comparisons of like what Feyre is going through right now feels a lot of how it feels to be a freelancer. Where like,
oh my God,
you don't know how long this waiting period is going to be. Because when she was talking about like, I'm going to jump back even further, when she's like gardening and, filling, doing all this work for Elaine. And she's talking about like, I don't know how I'm going to fill my days, my weeks, my month, whatever.
Yeah.
And it really, I was like, this feels a lot like when you're a freelancer and you experience one of those first really big wintertime lulls where you have no idea how long it's going to be. And you have no idea how to fill that time because you don't know how long it's going to be. You don't want to dedicate yourself to something that's too intense or too long or whatever. So you kind of just start searching for like hobbies, something that is kind of quick that you can whatever, but you don't feel safe enough to make a trip to the continent.
Right.
You don't feel like it's going to be long enough that you can do X, Y, and Z. So you're in this really awkward in between zone of like, how much extra time do I dedicate to something when I could be pulled back in like a day?
You're in purgatory.
You're in purgatory. Yes, you are in purgatory. So Nesta getting her to be able to paint again and like teaching her all this stuff, I think is just really, really lovely.
I love it. And I love, like, you know, we'll see throughout the series, Nesta and Feyre do continue to butt heads per usual, as big sisters and little sisters do. But this is such a lovely moment between the two where I think it truly is the first time in their lives they've really bonded.
Like, it feels that way because it feels
Yeah.
like so much of this feels very like new to Feyre. Well, because also just having this realization that she had of like she really looked at her sister and have this realization of like who she is, because even the little thing of like when we find out that, you know, Thomas Mandray wasn't going to go with Feyre, I mean go with Nesta to get her, how to Nesta that was just like, yeah, I realized he wouldn't have gone with me to save you from Prythian, and immediately that was her like, done, I'm done with you. And so it's just like we're learning. I feel like Feyre is really finally understanding like who her sisters are.
Yes.
In these chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like hopefully every sibling duo has a moment, especially sisters, where I know I certainly have with my sister, where like you kind of really realize, and it's usually in a moment of crisis or something like this, you really see your sibling for the first time.
Yeah.
With clear vision.
Yeah.
And realize the stuff they're made of.
Yeah.
And it's like a really, like, I kind of recently went through that with my sister, and it was really life-changing, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Certainly for me, I think for the both of us.
Yeah.
So I do want to get to chapter 31.
Yeah.
Because what Nesta does tell her about at the very end of chapter 30, where she says, you would have gone to the end of the earth to save your high lord, that kind of keeps Feyre up at night.
Really sticks with her, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, on page 268, she says, but I kept thinking about what Nesta had said about saving Tamlin. I known something was wrong. I known he was in trouble, not just with the blight on Prythian, but also that the forces gathering to destroy him were deadly, and yet I'd stop looking for answers, stop fighting it, glad, so selfishly glad to be able to set down that savage, wild part of me that had only survived hour to hour. I'd let him send me home. I hadn't tried harder to piece together the information I'd gathered about the Blight or Amarantha. I hadn't tried to save him. I hadn't even told him I loved him. And Lucian had known it too, and shown it in his bitter words on my last day, his disappointment in me. So like this really gets to her, right? Like she's like, I would argue she at this point thinks that she's a coward.
Yeah. I literally wrote, not sure how to feel about this quote. Seems natural, but
yeah,
Feyre was finally just living, not worrying about the world around her. And so I think this is a situation of two truths, where I think Feyre is right and I think she's wrong here. And I think I feel both very strongly with my chest, where I do think she could have pushed harder. I do think she could have pushed Tamlin harder. I believe that fully.
Yeah.
But I don't think she should have had to.
She shouldn't have had to. And I think that if she had, like, in a hypothetical world where she had, let's not forget, like, Tamlin gets triggered into beast mode pretty quickly.
Yeah. Those claws be popping out. You know what I'm saying?
Like, those claws be popping out. So I get why she didn't. But where I start to understand more of why she feels even more guilty in this chapter is they have the ball, right? I don't think there's much to talk about the ball, honestly, other than like she doesn't give a shit, and I don't blame her.
My favorite is her standing next to Nesta so people won't talk to her. Like I literally wrote like Nesta being the bulldog we all need. Like I love how that. And honestly just like the fact that people are even trying to like court Feyre is like the gold digging on display is just like so gross. And like honestly like the way humans are just overall painted, or the rich humans overall painted in this chapter, you can definitely tell how SJM feels about rich people, because it's just it's wildly gross.
And I'm like, girl, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
So
With you. But yeah, I really don't feel like the ball is a big thing. It's the conversation after the ball.
The conversation the next day.
Oh my God.
Where Papa Archeron, they're all sitting at lunch. They're all a bit hungover, tired from the ball. And Papa Archeron mentions how he is considering buying the better land. And prior to this, we'd also heard when Feyre, I forgot to mention this in the last chapter, Feyre, when she's in town, starts hearing about people talking about a house that burned down, right? So when Papa Archeron brings up the better land, she asks what happens to the Beddors, and Elaine says, "Oh, it was awful. Their house burned down and everyone died. Well, they couldn't find Clare Beddor's body, but it happened in the dead of night. The family, their servants, everyone. The day before you came home to us, actually." And that's when Feyre remembers when Rhysand came to the spring court the day before she was sent home, and he asked, "What's your name?" She said, "Clare Beddor."
Ugh.
This scene is so stomach churning. Like, it hurts.
It really does.
Because she realizes very quickly, I'm the reason their house burned down. And where the fuck is Clare Beddor? Right? Like, what happened to her? So, yeah, I get why, the stuff with Tamlin before, I am 1,000,000% with you in terms of, like, understanding why she feels guilty, but also feeling like she shouldn't feel guilty.
Yeah,
But I understand why she feels guiltier.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I still don't think she should feel guilty, because, like, how the fuck was she supposed to know anything would happen to Clare Beddor and her family, right? Like, there's no way she could. I also want to remind folks again, I know we did a little reminder before, Clare Beddor wasn't exactly the nicest person to their family.
Right.
But regardless, doesn't warrant her family being murdered in the dead of night, right? And her getting whatever happened to her, right? And what's crazy is, like, Nesta clocks it too.
Yeah, bro. Fucking Nesta. I literally had this whole thing where I was like, damn, Nesta is smart as hell. She, like, understands, like, she literally understands Feyre's whole facial reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And she immediately, like, jumps into planning with Feyre. Like, it's astounding to me, because I'm just like, there is one portion of the first reader cap where there's a little element of this with me where I'm just like, Nesta, where the fuck was this? Like, where was this? That's why I do feel like with a first reader cap on, and I'm being honest here, with the first reader cap, I feel like something else has happened to Nesta.
Yeah.
Like, there is some other shifts in her, because I don't know, dude. Like, I
wonder that the first time.
Yeah, just because there's this, like, and maybe it is just the glamour and, like, all of that, because honestly, that would really fuck up a person, like, to be perfectly honest.
Totally.
But I just wonder, because it's just like this, she just jumps right in there immediately.
Literally, all Feyre has to say to her, it's on page 270. She says, I lowered my hand and looked at Nesta. "You must listen very carefully," I said to her, swallowing hard. "Everything I've told you must remain a secret. You do not come looking for me. You do not speak my name again to anyone." And that is all Nesta needs to be like, on it. Let me help you. Because, like, immediately, Feyre, she does ask the Beddors, that was meant to be us, but you gave them a fake name, those wicked fairies who threatened your High Lord. So she does say that. But, like, the fact that she even goes from, like, A to Z that quickly, right?
Yeah.
She gets it. Feyre goes upstairs. She starts putting on her tunic and pants. Actually, Nesta's the one who gives her the tunic and pants. She pulls it out of the closet, helps Feyre pack, like, super fucking quickly, and then says, in this part, I think this part might be one of my favorite Nesta moments in these two chapters. After Feyre gets dressed, she says on page 271, Nesta says, "We don't need you here, Feyre. Don't look back. Father once told you to never come back, and I'm telling you now, we can take care of ourselves." And then Feyre says, "Once I might have thought that it was an insult, but now I understood what a gift she was offering me.
Yep.
And it really is a gift. She is saying, go be with Tamlin.
Yeah.
Go save your man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, get him, girl. We are fine here. You've given me marching orders, because Feyre does tell her, like, at any sign of the wall being breached or something weird going on, you guys get Elaine and Dad on a ship, sail as far away as you possibly can. So, like, Nesta has her marching orders. She's like, aye, aye, Captain, right?
Yeah.
You go off and fight the good fight,
Yeah.
right? And that is a gift.
Yeah, but she's giving her this like gift of like freedom, basically. She's also kind of telling her like, I understand this isn't your home anymore. Like, because and Nesta was the first one to say it, right?
Yeah.
That's how she even confronts her, that she knows. She's like, yeah, I think your home's a lot farther away from here. Like, Nesta, she's got these like laser, and like they talk a lot about her eyes and all of that stuff. And I know a lot of it has to do with like Feyre has Nesta's eyes and they both have their mother's eyes. So it's like it gets brought up a lot. But I just feel like Nesta just like sees shit, bro. Like, because she basically, she was immediately doing this like almost this like weird thing that many of us baby sisters need. Especially if you have parental figures out of the like not in your reality anymore.
Yeah.
Nesta's doing the like parental thing of like, I give you permission. Right? Yeah. And it's so silly. Ariel and I have talked about this so often of how hilarious it is, of how often we feel like we need to be given permission to feel a particular way or to go search towards a thing. And I think Ariel and I both try really hard to like give each other that permission a lot of the time, because we both know how like, and it's so bizarre because you and I have talked about all the time. We're like in therapy, half the time our therapists are just like giving us permission and we're like, oh my God, you know? So it's Nesta's giving her permission to live the life that Feyre wants to live, whatever it may be. Yeah. But it feels so much, because the one from the dad feels weird, but the one from Nesta, it feels is just like tender. It feels very very tender. And I also just think this whole moment, like, just to jump back like ever so a little bit back, is just like, I think it makes complete sense that this better thing makes Feyre be like, fuck, something is wrong. Right? Because for that to happen, like right after she left, and in the human lands, because she even discussed like, oh, so that means that fairies had come over the wall and then left no trace. Because she even like, she kind of starts like blindly talking about like the blight too to Nesta to kind of try to like explain like, because Nesta's like, is there going to be an invasion? And Feyre's just like, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. Like, I knew that things could be, that there's this some kind of sickness, and I don't know. And like, but she's like, and I think he could be in danger, because for them to try to go after who they think Feyre is, the Beddors. Yeah. That means, like, in my mind, that means they've somehow either tried to get Tamlin and they couldn't, so they went to try to get her, or like something has happened. And so I think it makes complete sense that Feyre goes into the survival mode we all know that baby girl can do. Like this, there's a very weird mirroring that happens here. And that mirrors what happens in the beginning of the book with her and Tamlin, right? This immediate survival mode of telling Nesta all the important facts that she needs to know. Because even after this gift quote that you said, that I'm so glad you brought up, but she starts telling Nesta, fairies can lie. Iron doesn't matter. Ash is a thing. Have Elaine grow a grove. Like, let's get this moving and grooving. Also, another thing that we kind of skipped over a little bit is as Feyre is talking about all of this in front of Papa and Elaine, we have this moment at 270 that says, my father and Elaine began blinking as if clearing some fog from their minds, as if emerging from a deep sleep. Yes. So, and then a little bit later in the chapter, we realize, oh yeah, no, the glamour got popped. And I'm assuming it's just because Feyre and Nesta were just talking about too many of these things that it kind of just like burst is how I like imagine it.
Which helps us kind of understand, I think, a little of the mechanics
Right.
of a glamour
Yeah.
of like, yeah, I guess if you can just talk about whatever you're trying to glamour, right, in front of the person who's glamored, I guess it does burst the glamour bubble a bit because Elaine, like, skipping a little bit ahead, when Feyre gets all ready and she goes downstairs, on page 272, it says, Elaine, to my surprise, had a horse, a satchel of food, and supplies ready when I hurried down the stairs. My father was nowhere in sight, but Elaine threw her arms around me, holding tightly, said, I remember all of it now. So, like, she has fully burst through that glamour bubble. Yep. She's remembering what happened. I think it's very significant that Papa's not there, which have a lot of feelings about.
Yeah.
And I mean, she does, to be fair, Feyre says, you know, he's not good with goodbyes. I'm not good with goodbyes. That's still your fucking daughter. That's still your daughter. And you know where she's going. And it's another way that Papa Archeron just fails to show up for his family.
Yeah. For me, it feels very on brand. I think it would have been really bizarre if he had been down there. It's not the man that we've been presented.
No.
You know, this also means what, in the span of 10, 15 minutes, Elaine and Papa were both reminded of what happened, why they got their money, why they have this home, why this all happened. And he clear, as we know, he doesn't handle this kind of shit well, as we've already seen. And so I think it would have been wildly out of character if he was down there. And to be perfectly honest, I'm glad we didn't have to deal with some kind of weird goodbye with him, because I just like, and I don't know if it's because I have daddy issues or some fucking shit, but it's just like, for me, I'm just like, no, fuck off, dude. I don't want to deal with you. Because also, I mean, like, on the other side of the coin, this homie is trying to cope with a lot of realizations in this moment.
Sure.
And there's a level of shame I'm sure he is feeling. Yeah. And I don't know, you could almost spin it to where, like, maybe it's more respectful that he didn't come down and say goodbye. I don't know. But I'm just glad that we didn't have to deal with a goodbye from him, because it's just like, I don't really know what you could say. You're not going to change your mind, you know, like she's going to go. So
I think it's more, for me, it's more validation for Nesta and why she hates him so much.
Totally.
So Feyre goes off. She spends a few days.
Well, okay, real quick, before we get into the very ending of this, Nesta and Feyre have this really beautiful goodbye, I think.
Yes.
Because there's that. So we're on page 272. There's also just like, there's this, I love this moment with Nesta at the top of the page where Nesta's just like, what do you think you're even going to do to help? Like, he's a high lord. You're just a human. And Feyre's thought is, that wasn't an insult either. A question from a cool, calculating mind. Yes. And we're getting all these little signs of like, Feyre is like she's really figured Nesta out, in the sense of she's understanding a lot of this now. And just this a question from a cool, calculating mind. I couldn't help but think that, is there a level of this understanding she has for Nesta that it's not only because of this like realization she's made of who she is, but I think a level of it could be because of some of her time with the Fae, because she's surrounded by these beings, as we've discussed, they're constantly shocked by her compassion, because there's a level of compassion that they have not grown up with. Yes. And so I think she has really started to learn that beings navigate very differently. And just because they're saying something matter-of-factly doesn't necessarily mean that they're insulting. Their brain works a little differently. And so I feel like this time with the Fae is actually making her appreciate both of her sisters and understand them so much more. And I think that's why there's this level of like further understanding that she has with Nesta. And so like these little moments, I just think a lot of it is like her perspective shift and being able to really look at her sister in like a different light. But then she has this whole thing of like, there's a better world, right? There's a better world out there waiting for you to find it. And she's like, and if you ever get the chance, like, I will find you. And Nesta's like, don't bother. I don't think I'd be fond of fairies, which is very funny.
Yeah.
But she says, like, and I'd like to see what else is out there, what a woman might do with a fortune and a good name.
Oh, just another reason to love her.
And Feyre's mental response is no limits. There are no limits to what Nesta might do, what she might make of herself when she found a place to call her own. And I prayed I would be lucky someday to see it. Like, there's the closure that Sarah gives Feyre in these 2 chapters with her sisters is huge. And like, I know it's hitting Ariel and I at a particular level just because we both have sisters, but it's just like, when you finally see your sibling as not just your sibling, but as just like a person.
Yeah.
And then you realize that you actually like really respect like who they are and that you actually appreciate that they navigate differently than you. Like, getting emotional. It's really cool. It's really beautiful, and it elevates your relationship to a different point. And I just love this for them so much. And
it's a canon moment for, I think, most siblings. At least most siblings that like get along, right, to some degree. I'm so glad you brought up the better world quote, because that is, I really think it's one of the main themes of the whole series is there is a better world and we need to fight for that better world, right? And I kind of always forget how early it comes in the series. Because it does, it reoccurs. And I love that one of the first times we hear it is Feyre telling Nesta. And baby girl goes to fight for that better world. So she spends a few days on horseback going through the woods, trying to get to that wall. We actually finally get to see what the wall looks like. It's an invisible wall, right? And she at first can't get through it. The horse won't go near it.
The tapping is so clever. She's so clever. Gosh, she's so clever. Smart.
She eventually finds a hole in the wall and she kind of figures out like that's how Fae do get into our world and vice versa. And then she makes her way to the spring court and it is eerie.
So this is actually my sound moment.
I had a feeling.
I was like, I see it coming from a mile away. And on page 274, it says, I became so intent on contemplating how I might convince him not to start roaring that I didn't immediately notice the quiet, how the birds didn't sing, even as I drew closer to the manor itself, how the hedges of the estate looked in need of a trim. So, I mean, I feel like it's pretty obvious as to why I chose it. Mainly because it would be so fun to play with the fact that we've already, at this point in the film, we've already created a soundscape for the spring court. Right. Yeah. So there's already a space that the audience has gotten used to a degree. Right. And I think, there's a level of playing with that you can do that when she returns to the mortal world, much like your directing moment where you would it would look different. I would want it to sound very different too.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of like, I don't know how to fully describe it, but if there is like a way to almost do this, like if there was almost some sort of like echo of what she almost like feels like she should be hearing, but then to almost realize that it's just been like a memory. I don't know how you convey that in sound, but like almost maybe it starts off as like, you would use like a tactic of maybe it just being the kind of, we talked about this a little bit earlier or a while ago when we were talking about like the voice of the surreal or whatever, but like if you only use the decay of something, if you only use the echo, so if you only used that sound and that, so it sounds kind of far away, and then to maybe like it completely pull away when she actually like gets out of her head and realizes that like it's fucking ransacked. Like she even says it feels like a tomb, like the place has been ripped apart.
I almost picture like, because like when the swing court is not torn apart, I picture, like chirpy birds, like a robin or, those types, blue jays. but like I picture like here like it's silent, but like maybe hear like a crow,
right,
or like a vulture, like that type of
right.
thing, where it's like you still hear something. Obviously you need some sounds, right? It's not gonna be dead quiet, but it's like the eerie version of what the spring court sounded
Yeah,
like.
see, I feel like I would want it to be like maybe all you hear is like wind going through like an empty house. Because in my mind, I think I would use crows and vultures and stuff for when we're in the mortal realm.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And then
Yeah.
and then I feel like there'd be in my mind there's a lot of buzzing in the spring court, right? There's a lot of buzzing of bees, there's a lot of flies, there's a lot of little of like little, and then there's birds chirping, a lot of little squeaks, a lot of like I also feel like I would just have like a constant babbling brook happening in the background of the soundscape, you know what I mean? And so I almost wonder if it's just like this moment would be wind and like a very dystopian like singular droplet like happening in the corner, or just like something that just feels so devoid. And I think, but it would be interesting actually to bring in almost an element from the mortal realm, because it feels it feels dead and it feels a little scary. But yeah, so that's my sound moment, because the ending of this chapter is like fucking terrifying.
I wonder also if there's like, because like I think for me the most gut wrenching part of this chapter is the last sentence, which is he was gone. Right? Like, oh my God. I know, right? Like,
yeah.
And I wonder if there's like a sound you could make. And I don't know what it would be, but that's almost always associated with Tamlin. So when it's taken away, it's like super noticeable, whether it's like his footsteps or like, I don't know, sound of his claws or something like that. And then you don't, but it's like subtle to the point where you don't notice it until it's gone.
Yeah.
You know?
Or if it's like
It's very
it is. Or I just thought of the idea of like if Tamlin had a musical theme, if he had like a little
for sure.
like a sort of fiddle, very simple note kind of whatever. And if you sort of had this feeling as if when she first says his name, the little theme starts, and then when she realizes it, but as she's slowly realizing, like, I feel like the theme could maybe like go away from you. Like it's sort of like it's going out of reach, kind of.
Echoes away.
Exactly.
Whew. I love it and hate it.
I know. No, I know. And it's so
just like the end of this chapter.
Well, it's so painful too, because the first way she calls out for him is like, Tam.
I know.
Fuck, dude, where's Tamlin? And Lucian? And it's empty. And like she sees all the servants now, y'all. Like she has no more glamour. And it is legitimately empty this time.
Of the love of her life and her friend. Yeah. Friends, because Lucian and Alice. We don't know where Alice is. Like it's so, and this is what I love about this book, right? Is like you go from these like extremely beautiful spring court moments to these like pretty extreme horror moments of just like what is happening. And without spoiling, this ain't gonna be the last.
Yeah.
Because we are, as Corinne mentioned at the top of this episode, we are getting into the last 200 pages.
We're in it. We're already in the last 200 pages. In it. Yeah.
Shit is only going to continue to hit the fan. Yeah. Oh my God, I can't wait for the next chapter I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
For so long.
Yeah. Yeah. We're back in the Fae realm, and woof.
So good to be back.
But
in the weirdest way. We're like, it's exciting to be back, but also like, oh no, this is why we're back.
But it's yeah, and it's like how like the rest of the book is gone, of like, oh cool, we know something, but no, actually we don't know anything. We have absolutely no concept, because like she's never gone to any other portion of Prythian before. How can she even begin, if everyone's gone, how can she even begin to understand to where to look? Like, how does she look for these,
where they are,
for these beings? Like,
yeah. Also, who the fuck is Amarantha?
Bro.
Well, on that note, next week, as we've kind of alluded to, chapter 32 is a very big chapter. So for that reason, we're just going to do 32 because we're going to have a lot to talk about. If you've read ahead, you already know. if you will, we would love it if you subscribed, rated, and reviewed us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. I know you're listening to us on one of those already. So if you haven't subscribed, rated, or reviewed, check us out for that. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Cauldron Save Us Pod. And if you want to write to us about theories, just have someone to freak out with, because it is getting crazy and sometimes you just gotta get it out. You can email us at cauldronsaveus@gmail.com.
Yep. I'm very excited. I'm very excited. This is like my favorite part of this book. So
I think it's everyone's, honestly. Yeah. Those in the Surreal Squad who are listening to this episode as well, and you can join us in our Surreal Squad episode. I can't remember if we've actually mentioned this before, but for those who only listen to the spoiler-free episodes, we call it the Surreal Squad episode because the Surreal knows all, and so does the people who've read the entire series.
So does the spoiler episode humans, so yeah.
Which, just as a reminder, once you get through the entire series, then you can come back. And listen to all of those and be like, oh my God.
Theorize with us, my friends.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I'm so happy we're in the end game of this book.
Yep.
It's going to get so wild from here and I can't fucking wait.
So excited. But yeah, thanks for being with us, guys. And as always, you're welcome.
And we're sorry. Bye.
Bye.